All right. So today's the 24th, and this weekend is Thanksgiving. So most workplaces, you're gonna have an extra day for the weekend, and so will we. Um, so let me just remind you what our schedule is. Um, so we're meeting today, but the 25th is considered a holiday, so we're not gonna have lab day. Um, Tomorrow. Right, normally we have lab on Thursdays. Looks like tomorrow we're off. Okay, next time we meet will be the 29th on Monday. I hope that's the same schedule you guys were given, right? Because I have 25th marked as a holiday on my calendar, so okay, great. Same, then that's good. All right, so just to solidify our understanding of the Photoshop timeline, we're gonna do one more animation. This time I'm gonna do a side scrolling or it doesn't have to be side, could be top down or left to right, but some sort of scrolling animation. And like um thinking we'll do like a car driving down somewhere, or maybe a bird flying. That would be interesting too. Actually, let's do a bird flying because I haven't done that. Maybe I have, maybe it's been a while, I don't know. But let's try to get a picture of a bird flapping its wings, and we'll have some sort of background behind it that's looping. So for the size, let's go with mm, let's go with 960 by 640. Not a complete square. We want it a little bit wide, but size is not really important here. I'm just going with 960 by 640. And if you don't have the timeline open, you can open it with window timeline. All right, so for this, we're gonna have to um, create multiple images of a bird flapping. Now, um, what does a bird look like flapping? I mean, you could draw a little stick figure bird. Oops, I'm on the scatter brush. Let me reset that to the normal brush. There we go. Okay, so say we have a bird that looks okay, maybe not like that. Um, Anyways, the bird is gonna have its wings. If this was a bird, maybe it's gonna have its wings up like that. Maybe it's gonna be something like that. Maybe it's gonna flap down. And maybe it's gonna flap like straight down or something like that, right? So the wings are gonna be opening and closing like this. Um, Now, fortunately, we don't have to have drawing skills for this. We just need to go find an image of a bird flapping its wings, which is simple as Googling it. Bird flapping wings. And boom, there's one right there. You see that? Wings are up and then straight or, or down a little. Let's see. Yeah, so up, down. I can't tell if this is like more down than this one or if it's straighter. I can't tell, but it's a cycle, right? Um, we could take this image. Oops, I guess I can't grab this one like I normally would. Because it's a background image, looks like. By the way, you know HTML and CSS. We've learned a little bit previous classes. All of you have been in there. I'm also gonna try to do one of these with HTML and CSS. I don't know if I'll get to that today, but it's also possible with CSS to do this sort of side-scrolling animation. So I'm gonna inspect this because there's a background image here somewhere. You can see here it's HTTP images and certain URL over here. So this URL, I'm just gonna grab that. Am I grabbing it right? Yeah, okay, so everything between these parentheses. Copy that and paste it. Hey, why can't I paste it? Uh, I don't want to copy the whole element. I just want to copy the text. Um, one more time. I'll just do Control C on this one. Control C. Boom, there we go. There's that image I'm looking for. And now I will just copy, paste it in here. One more time, copy image, edit, paste. And just to test this out real quick, I'm gonna create a keyframe frame animation real quick. Okay. And on the frame animation, I'm just gonna make a little box here, a selection box around the middle here on one of the birds. I'm gonna make it small enough to just hold the entire bird in there, but also big enough to fit any of these images of the bird. So put a box around the bird like that. And I'm just gonna create, so I have that layer selected with the bird on it. I'm gonna click on the layer mask button and it's only gonna reveal the area that I have selected. And then I'm gonna, see here in my layers, there's the layer mask. I'm gonna unlink them so I can select the image itself and I'm gonna grab the move tool. I'm just gonna move this so we can see the first image here. I'm gonna place that there. And I'm gonna create another keyframe. So that was the first frame. Now, second frame, I'm going to move this over. So first frame, second frame, and then a third frame. We'll move this over again. And then let's just play this so far with 3 frames, see what it looks like. It's sort of flapping its wings, right? Might look better if we add a couple more frames and use the rest of the images of the bird. One more. And I think there was a couple more. Yeah, this is the last one. Okay. All right, so this one, I kind of knew from the way the image looked, this wouldn't look that great flapping. It looks kind of weird, but we could make it a little, we could improve it a little bit if we add a guideline and keep its head steady somewhere. So on every frame, try to keep his head in the same spot, which is right here on that line. So pretty much like where his eyes would be on every frame, I'm just going to keep his eyes in that same location. Maybe I should add a second guideline, just like where I'm imagining where his eyes would be. I'm just going to move his eyes right there. I'm using the keyboard also to position this more precisely. There we go. Okay, so now every frame, the bird's head is in the same spot. This should help stabilize the animation and yeah, improves how it looks. Oh, definitely makes it look a lot better right there. So now we've got the bird flapping. All right. Now next thing to do would be to try to get rid of the background. Now I could go to each image and just select the blue in the background and just delete it. Um, or fill it with white or something. Or let's disable the layer mask real quick so we could see the whole image. Um, Another thing I can do is I'm gonna create one more frame in the beginning. Just an extra frame I'm making that I'm gonna just move this here for a second on this frame. And I'm going to say image adjustments. And we're gonna say levels. And see if we could turn that blue into a white color with the levels adjustment. So if I just slide that right side slider all the way to the left, because it's a black bird, um, all the light areas of the image are gonna turn white, but the black should stay black. Now it's gonna kind of overexpose the white area on the wings. See, they're turning like super bright. Um, but that part, it's gonna be a little bit tough to make that one look good. It's fine, I guess, like this because it's a blackbird. We don't have to worry too much about that. And click OK. And then um I'll just get rid of that frame now. Go back to this frame and delete that new frame that I just created. And we're back to oh yeah, yeah, we're right. Okay. So the reason why I wanted a white background is because now I could throw on whatever background I want. So on the actual background layer, I could make that whatever color I want. Let's say I make my new sky in the background. And then because we have white in the background, I can change this mode to multiply. and that way it'll pretty much hide all the white. Now, also the white part on the wings, that's gonna turn transparent as well, but the white background now became transparent. Let's enable that layer mask again, and then press play. Um, there we go. Okay, so now it's enabled on every frame. And let's go to view clear guides, and we can clear those guides. So now I have a bird flapping its wings with the blue background. And now you could imagine on another layer, maybe I have some trees. I'll do a simple tree here as an example. Imagine that's a tree, and um, here's another tree, and here's another tree. I know these are terrible trees, but we'll do a nicer one right after I make my point. I'm gonna duplicate this and merge these together. And we're gonna start here. And on every frame, we're gonna move the trees back a little bit. So actually, let me select all the frames and make sure this is positioned in the same spot. Oh, actually, this would be easier with the timeline animation because I'll have this on a separate um, layer, and I could just um, add a keyframe on the not transform, but the position. We could add a keyframe and just simply move it from here to here, from one keyframe to another. But since I'm using timeline animation, I have to do this manually. So select this and bring this here. Next frame, bring it a little bit this way. Next frame, bring it a bit this way. Next frame, bring it more. And next frame, bring it even more. I think I'm doing that right. Anyways, um, it should look whatever. Okay, really bad example because I don't have too many frames and these trees are ugly, but you could kind of see what I'm trying to go for here. All right, now that we know like the basics of this, we realize it's important to get a white background or at least cut out the bird. I'm gonna go choose a different one. So I'll do this again, but with a different image of a bird. And we kind of know the basics of it. And this time I'm not going to do a frame animation. I'll do a timeline animation because we know that the timeline animation gives you more control and it's just more advanced. So um, we'll do that. But first, let's go out and find another bird image. So this one was all right, but now we know that we need something like this. Each frame. So let's go back to Google. Here's another one that's, well, this one's kind of like an illustration showing it, the different steps that the bird takes flapping. There's another one. It's kind of, but then this one's not gonna work though because we're seeing it like getting bigger, and the background's not clear, so we're still gonna have to cut it out. Most likely I'm gonna have to cut out the bird because it's gonna be hard to find one with a clear background. What's this one? Let's see, up, down, up, straight. I don't know. It's not really in order. Bird flapping wings. Let's type cycle. Or just flapping wings cycle. See if we find a good one. Here's one. Seagull. It's not really showing it from side perspective. We could end up using one of these illustrations. But I'll resort to that if I can't find the actual photo. Yeah, I guess it's kind of hard to find a photo of the sequence that we need. All right, I'll go with one of these illustrations then. Um, let's do this one. I guess the first one here looks decent. It's like an eagle flapping. It's kind of a low resolution image, unfortunately. See if we can find a better one. Um, I don't know why it's. I'm surprised there's not more of these. um, wing flapping frames. This might be a situation where you might want to grab a camera and go out and see if you could catch one and record it. All you have to do is record a video and pause the video and play it frame by frame and hopefully catch the bird at the right angle. Oh, here's one. Oh, oh, here's a bunch. These are old school though. See, these studies were done years ago. All the images we see are black and white. Bird flap cycle. Is that not what I typed in? Bird flap cycle. So while I'm doing this, you guys try to find um, one of these cycles that you want to use. You already saw like the first example how it works. So the more frames you have, the smoother you can make this look. Alright, I think I'm gonna go with this one because it's a decent number of frames and it's in color and there's a clear background already for me, so that works out nicely. If you want to use the same exact image, let me link you to the image. Um, right click, open image in new tab. There it is. There's the link to it. So let me copy that. Let me paste this into the Discord. Alright, so there's the image in the Discord. You can go ahead and download that or save it. Because I think it's a PN, yeah, it's a PNG, so if you copy and paste the PNG, it's gonna come in with a black background. So you wanna save it, so save image as, and we'll just save it on the desktop, and then just drag it into Photoshop. I'm not sure why that happens. When you have a PNG, you copy paste it, it has a black background. Like, I guess when you copy, I don't know, maybe it doesn't save the alpha channel or something, or maybe it's just some sort of setting you have to change. But I'm just gonna drag the image from the desktop here. Okay, so now it has a clear background. And I basically have to do the same thing I did before with the layer masks. So this size is okay, let's say. So I'm gonna just drop it in there. And we'll have the bird like maybe up here. And I'll create an X where I'm gonna try to keep the head. And I will make a box around that area. Make sure that box is big enough to fit any of these frames. Also not too big because I don't want to include like more than one bird in there. So try to get it like the perfect size square. Um, yeah, I think this will work. Okay, so this size, let's say, um, and let's add a layer mask. Create our video timeline. Okay, so we have controls for transform, opacity, style, layer mask position, layer mask enabled. The one that we're probably gonna transform is just a transform, and we're gonna disconnect the link between the layer and the layer mask like before. Um, and basically, even though we're creating a video timeline for the bird itself, it's still a frame by frame animation. So I'm still gonna treat it like a frame by frame animation, meaning I'm gonna have to, let's zoom in real close on this. And actually, before we do anything, let's figure out how long the animation is gonna take. Well, I'll leave it at 5 seconds, because I know 5 seconds is more than enough. But I'm gonna zoom in on the timeline. So drag that slider to the right. So that way it's easier to go from frame to frame. We know that this is frame 0, this is frame 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if I zoom in even closer, there we go. Now we could see each frame. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You could see the number on the frame. So we're going to treat this like a regular frame animation. We're going to turn on the transform. Okay. And then we're going to go to the next frame. And we're going to move this to the left so we could see the next image of the bird. Go to the next frame. Move it again. Go to the next frame. Move it again. Next frame. Move it. next frame, move it. Oh, I guess there's no more on the right. So I gotta go to the next row because this image had multiple rows. So here's the next row. Yep, first image on the next row. I think I'm going in the correct order. See, so yeah, if you play it slowly, like just move the slider left to right, you can see it's working how it should. You can see the wing flapping. Um, so next frame, move it over. Next frame, move it over. Next frame. Uh-oh. Okay, here we have a problem. The wing is cut out from the layer mask. I guess what we could do is maybe just enable the layer mask position. So that's another good thing about doing timeline animation. We could put a keyframe on the position of the layer mask and keep it on the previous frames where it's fine where it is. On the last of those frames, I'll drop a keyframe here, and on this keyframe, I'll simply move it up a little bit. And on the next one, let's move over the bird. And the layer mask is still good where it is, so I could leave it there, I guess. Next frame. Now we're at the third row. Third and final row. I don't think there's any more after. Oh no, there is a fourth one, sorry. We'll have to do the next row after this. And here we can see let me zoom in a little bit. The bird is pretty much in the same spot. It moves a little bit here and there, a couple pixels. Not a big deal. You could always go in and adjust at each of the frames. Oops, I didn't mean to move that. There we go. Alright, yeah, it doesn't have to be perfect, but these two frames look almost the same, but they're actually two different frames. So on this one, the wing is again clipped a little bit. So on this frame, on the previous one, I'll drop another keyframe on the position of the layer mask position. And on this one where it's cut off, just move it up a little bit so it's not cut off. And then next frame, select the layer again, move this over. Next frame, move it over. Oops. Next frame, move it over. You can see it's automatically dropping these keyframes every time I move it since I turned on the transform here. So don't worry about clicking this to add your own. It'll automatically add a keyframe anytime you move it. Okay, final row. Yeah, okay, so yeah, the fourth one is the final. So there's that image. This one. This one. This one. Oh, by the way, my wings are clipped here. Let me go through all of them, make sure the wings are never clipped. Okay, so just these two, I guess. On this one, on the previous one, we can drop a keyframe on the layer mask position by clicking that button. And on this one where it looks like it's cut off, I'll select the layer mask and move it down a little bit. Also on this one, move it down a little bit so it's not cut off. And then on this frame, select the layer again and move this over. Yep, it looks like we gotta move that layer mask down again. Next frame. Oh, that was the final one. So there's no more next frame. So we got all of them. Now when I press play, we'll have much smoother looking animation because we've got a lot of frames. And now we only need up to frame, what is that? Frame 19. So not even a second. It's less than a second because remember this is playing at 30 frames per second. So frame 19 will stop our animation there. Now we could play this. This looks like this wasn't the actual photo. It looks like maybe it's a 3D rendering of a bird. So it kind of looks unnatural. But last thing would be to just go in there and try to stabilize the bird more. Like get it pixel perfect, the position. And I'll just aim to keep that eye centered right there on the crosshair. It helps when you do it this way. Because whenever I do it this way, it gets pixelated while I'm holding this and kind of throws me off. So it's better if you click this next keyframe button. So it's a tiny image, so each pixel here matters in this case. Okay, I think it's as stable as I'm gonna get it. Cool. So now that we've got that image stabilized, I'm gonna go view and clear my guides. Alright, so we've got our bird flapping cycle. And I'm going to convert that to a smart object just so we can package that animation. So we don't have to see all of these anymore because we're done with these. We're not going to change anything about this. It's going to stay just how it is. So I'm going to save that by right clicking on the layer and saying convert to smart object. Okay, so now you can see when I open this, it's just transform opacity style, and there's no frames on this. If I ever want to edit that original animation, I have to double click on the smart object thumbnail layer, and then here it'll bring me to the original. So we could close that. We don't need to save because we didn't make any changes. But now it's like we basically saved that animation in this smart object. Cool, so we could keep that like that, and then we can add our additional layers. So maybe some sort of background layer with, and the more layers you add, the more depth it's gonna have. So maybe I have a layer for the sky in the background with clouds moving, and maybe I have another. Maybe I have two layers for the clouds because maybe we have some clouds that are closer and some are further away, so they move at a different rate. Um, and then maybe some trees, maybe some buildings. Maybe this is on in a residential area, so maybe there's buildings passing by. Um, but the more layers you have, and if they're gonna all have different speeds, like one layer is moving faster than another, it's gonna complicate the loop. Trying to make it loop um, uh, seamlessly is gonna be a little bit harder because you have to coordinate all those layers to start and stop looking exactly the same instead of just a single layer. Could I show you what I mean by I'll do two layers first, two different, let's say two different tree layers. We'll start with that. And for my trees, I'm not gonna draw an ugly triangle like last time. I probably got tree brushes in here somewhere. If not, I'll create one. But yeah, there's a couple tree brushes here. I'm not sure if these come with it or if I made these. I think these are the ones that come with it. So let's say I click on this one. I'll increase the spacing. And there's my tree. Oops, let's make that smaller. There's a tree. Now that color is a little too green. It's better maybe. Let me darken it a little bit. Okay, so yeah. So if it's gonna start off with like one tree here, then the end of the animation, however long I decide to make it, it's gotta end with the tree in the same spot or almost in the same spot, maybe before it gets there. So I'll do like three trees just to keep it simple. One, two, and third one. Let's have it a little bit cut off from the frame. Or actually, let me do a different tree. I've got multiple tree brushes. Do one tree like this one, maybe like. Well, since these are all in the same layer, I'm gonna make them all about the same size. They're gonna be moving together, these trees. This one, let's change the color. This one's more brown. Okay, so tree 1, 2, and 3. Um, so when we're doing the trees, it's gonna help if we extend our work area so we could see like the longer version of the image. Or we could just right click on it and say create smart object or convert to smart object, and then double click on that and go to image canvas size and make this wider. So right now width is 13. Let's make it let's see if I can move this tree by itself. This last one. Move it a little bit this way. I want to make that number a little more circle, so I'm going to say image canvas size. Let's have 13.097. Let's make that 12, and the height, let's make that 5. Let me see if that's okay. Looks like it cuts off some of my image, so I'll just scale the trees down. We transform, scale it down a little bit. Also, this is in inches, but I'm pretty sure I set this to, let's see, image size. We were using pixels for this. Image canvas size, pixels, 960 by 640. So let me go back here and let's keep this at 960 by 640 pixels. 960, 640. Keep those images in the same location like this. And let's just say image canvas size, and let's extend the width. So it's 13.333 inches. But I'm going to set this to percentage. I'm going to say, um, let's do 300%. And I'll click this little arrow, so the left side arrow, that means it's going to get longer from this side. Okay. So also, I'm going to set a guideline at, make sure this is in pixels. I want this guideline to be at 960. So that's how wide my original image was. If you want to be more precise with the guideline, you gotta zoom in. 960. Okay, so it's exactly at 960 now. So this just tells me that this area right here, that's the part that we're gonna be seeing at the end. So actually, let me double check if this is not gonna ruin everything. I'm gonna close this and save it. Okay, it did kind of throw things off, so it's good to, after you adjust the size, initially you wanna move this around, get it to where it's supposed to be, like here. And then go back in. Now we can add like more trees. And I should probably add one every 960 pixels. So 960 plus 960, that's 1000. What would that be? Let me use the calculator real quick. I know some of you could do this in your head. I can't. 960 times 2. Oh, it's 1920. So the next one has to be at 1920. Oops, I didn't mean to move that one. This one here. Bring that to 1920. I'm just dividing into equal threes. I could have just done this, made a selection, and then moved the selection, and that would have told me where 960 is. But anyways, now it's three of them, and it's gonna have to start and end the same. So the middle part can be whatever, but actually it's good to just keep each third the same. That way you could move it as far as you need to. Because maybe I'm not gonna move this from here to here. Maybe I'm only gonna move it from here to here because I don't know, I'm trying to slow down the animation or speed it up or something. So if I'm gonna divide this in threes, I'm gonna make sure every three looks exactly the same. So I'll select all of these and then say edit, copy, edit, paste. Move that to here. And then again, oops, over here. Edit, paste again, move it here. Okay. They're all in the same line, and then close this and save it. Alright, so what I did is basically made this original image longer. So now I can do that. And every third I move it. Oops. Oh, I think I just undid it. Edit, redo, move, edit, undo, move. Uh-oh. Let me go back here. Oh no, I did edit, undo accidentally. So I have to do that again. It's fine. Just copy, paste. And it sort of snaps to the same spot. You can see like there's a little bit of space between here and the wall. There's a little bit of space here. Hold the Alt button and just copy it that way. I also lost that guideline over there at where it was supposed to be. But I'm just gonna do this and drag it there. Yeah, it's where it's supposed to be. Okay, so save that. So again, I'm gonna try make sure I don't do edit, undo, and undo that again. But um, we're gonna go from the first frame. We're gonna add our transform keyframe on there. It's a smart object, so it's gonna have transform instead of position, but you could use just the position if you want with the transform. Part of transform is position, so so first frame I'll drop a keyframe, and let's go towards the end of the bird flapping cycle right here, and at that point I'll move this over to here. Okay, so now if I press play, oh no, it's going backwards. Okay, so we should do the opposite. We should start with the trees, not the middle, but the last part. There's the last three trees. So start from there and go backwards. There we go. So at this point, if I shorten my whole animation to just right there by dragging this top slider, bringing it here, there's a moment where it stops. You can kind of tell like the trees stop moving. That's because there's two frames where it looks exactly like this. But every other frame, they're moved quite a bit. You can see. So basically, I just need to um, cut this one frame shorter. So, or maybe just move the trees a little bit more. So when it starts here, I don't want to end exactly same spot. I want it to end looking like this with some of this tree sticking out. So I'm gonna go to that last frame um, and have some of that tree sticking out. I guess like this then. And I don't know what that little stutter is, but maybe it's just a loop starting over. Let's see what that looks like if I export. Oh, that's bothering me. So there's like little stutter right there. Not sure why. Let me zoom in on this. Did I accidentally drop an extra frame? No. Oh, I guess it's moving too far. Is it? Is moving too far? Yeah, it's moving too far. I gotta bring it back, I guess. Like that. Oh yeah, much better. Kind of. So each frame, the trees move just a little bit. So we could kind of count it. Like one frame, it's there. The next frame, it's there. So it doesn't move too much. That tree anyway. Um, so let's bring this here. So if the tree is here one frame, next frame, it's here. Trying to get the point of the tree right there. I don't know why it's so hard to move it, but there. Okay. So one frame it's there, next frame the point is there. So on this last couple frames, that's the amount I want to move it. So it's not moving too much. It's moving this much. So let's go to that last frame. Make sure that from here to here, it only moves. I got it pretty much exact. So it should already be looking good. Let's just view clear guide. Or sorry, I'm measuring the wrong thing. I meant here. Brain's not working. All right, so this one and this one, that's how far they should be moving. So just a little bit. So this amount is how much I want it to move. So that means if it starts here, then the next frame, we just want it to move that much. And in this case, it's looping, so basically it's gonna have to be, we have that point of the tree has to be here at the end of the last animation. So here, basically like this. Select, let's move this here. Select, deselect. Okay, so the tree has to be here. I think, yeah, so now it should be perfect. Yep, there's no jump or anything now. It's perfect. You Clear guides. Okay, there we go. So we got our bird flying, and we got one layer of trees. We can create another layer. Since this one's divided into three, I could probably use this one because from here to here, I think we're traveling. We're only using two halves of that image. We're only going from the first tree to the second tree. There's still a whole third one. I could move this to the third one just to make sure I put this in the same spot. If I do that, it's gonna look like it's faster. Ah, what happened to my guideline? Okay, so this, instead of being at the second image, because again, this is trees one. Here's the second set of trees. I'll just move this over to the third set of trees. Now it's gonna look like it's going faster, right? Much faster. And I could create a new layer or duplicate this layer. Control J to duplicate. On this layer, I will, that one's stationary at the moment, but I'll add a transform keyframe on this one. And let's just move this up a little bit. So it's not the same level as the other one. And let's also make it a little bit more transparent so it looks like it's further away. And on this one, we could start maybe a little bit offset, tiny bit, or let me start with the same exact spot. Just keep it simple. From the first frame to the last frame, instead of moving. Oh, and yeah, we have to start with we are on the last one, so yeah, that's fine. We're already on the last three images. So on the final frame, I'm just gonna move to the second set. Instead of all the way to the third one, I'm gonna just go to the second set of trees. Okay. So now when I play it, you can see the one in the back moves slower and then the one in the front moves faster, but we still have a nice infinite loop. And then also change the order of the layers. Like this one should be behind this one. And then this one, because it's in the front, it wouldn't hurt to, what should we do with this? I want it to be a little bit stronger, this one. Wait, what am I looking at here? Well, that's that one and this one. So even though this one's at 100% opacity, that brush that I'm using is not 100% solid, so we could see through it kind of. So let me double click on this and select all of these layers and just press Ctrl J to duplicate them. That way, see, it's a little more solid. And close that and save it. Yeah. All right, it's more solid looking this time. I could still kind of see through it, but not as bad as before. I kind of see that trunk of that other tree through it, but much better now. And then the bird, where's the bird? There's the bird. Put the bird between them. So the bird could be behind these trees, but in front of the other trees. Not It's moving too fast to really tell anyway, but I don't know, kind of gives it a little bit of depth because there's background trees, and there's foreground trees. Okay, we could add a ground to this. The ground doesn't have to really move too much, I think. We could just fill it with some, what color should the ground be? Maybe green, like a dark green. I don't know why that looks terrible, but that's our ground. And then the sky can be like a sky blue color, or I could use a gradient or something, but no, I'm just gonna keep it simple. There we go. So here's our bird animation. Just gonna clear my guides so we can have a better look at this. Cool. And then if I was to export this file, export, save for web, just test it out as a GIF. Looks pretty good. I think it looks good. There seems to be one frame where I don't know if I'm seeing things or one of the frames looks like there's like a line. See if I can catch it. Nope, I don't see anything. I think it's just like a glitch or moving so fast it looks like there's a line. If we do this frame by frame, we see there's no weird things happening, so it's fine. Um, but yeah, so what I did was use those same two sets of trees. If you draw more trees, it won't be so obvious that you're looping the same set of trees in the background and the foreground. Or you could have just draw a different image in the background. Like I could totally double click this one and well, maybe not this one. The other one, double click. I guess they're the same. If I edit one, I think the other one will change too. Say I draw let's just draw like a line on the top. Let me see if both of them get the same line. If they do, you might have to save that as a copy. Let's make this like obvious, like red line going up across the top, and close that and save it. Yeah, looks like both of them have it. This one has it, and this one has it too. So basically, if I change this smart object, the other one changes too. So let me undo the adding that line. Okay, got rid of that line. I just press Control Z till that line was gone. So what I can do is right click on this and we should be able to save it as like a copy. New, okay, so there's convert to smart object. There's also new smart object via copy. So if you do new smart object via copy, you can see layer 1, copy 2. I'm just going to delete the other one. Or actually, no, before I delete it, let me check if it has, yeah, it still has my frames, so we're good. I don't have to recreate or drop the same keyframes, so um, I'll go ahead and delete layer 1. Okay, so now that I made a copy of layer 1 with new smart object via copy, I should be able to now draw a line across the top on this one. Close that and save it. Yep, and it doesn't affect the other one. You see, the other one doesn't have that line. Only that one. So let me undo that. Now I could double click this and make it different than the other one. So I don't know, maybe change the colors or um, add some more trees or something, or make them smaller. Maybe edit, transform. If I make them smaller, I'm gonna have to reposition them a little bit. Wait, is this the one in the front or the back? I think it was the one in the front because it was the top layer. Cancel that. Which one am I looking at here? Yep, this is the one in the front. So these actually, I would want to make them bigger. Like, I don't want to stretch it like that. That's gonna look weird. Why don't I? Yeah, I'll just scale it up, holding Shift, just a little bit like that. Oh, I forgot I have two of these. Let me delete these. Select just these. Edit, free transform, scale them up. And I just reposition these like, sort of where they should be. Now because this one's coming out of here, it's gonna maybe be a problem. I should just do brand new set of trees actually. I'll just do new trees on top of these, on a different layer, I guess. So let me grab my tree brush. And yeah, that was orange, but sometimes trees are actually that color. So maybe I'll do one that's like reddish or one that's a little bit green, and maybe a bit smaller like that. Um, Grab the other tree. Make that one a bit darker. Let's make this more brown. Add some in between. Cool. And now I'll just take that and edit, copy, or why don't we just here alt drag it. Just make sure all three of those look the same, and then close this and save it. Well, now we have different trees in the front, different trees in the back. This background that I put is maybe a little too dark or something because it's hard to see these trees. Let me brighten up that green. Cool. We can also throw in some adjustment layers on top of everything, like maybe a curves adjustment on top, just to increase the contrast here a little bit. And then for the trees in the back, I want them to be smaller because they're further away in the back. Let me double click that. And let's do edit free transform. Let's actually make these. Oh, again, I have two layers, so let me delete the first layer. Edit free transform. Make these a bit smaller. And let's get rid of these real quick. Delete these. And just delete two of the layers. Keep one. And yeah, just do a bunch of more trees here, but smaller. Okay, and then just take those and hold the Alt button, copy them over. Select, deselect, and then close this and save it. Okay, so the ones in the back now are smaller than the ones in the front. We can also maybe add like a little bit of grass on top, like on the bases. I don't know, something to help blend it in with the ground. Um, we could, yeah, we could even throw grass on top of some of this. Like take a grass brush. There should be a grass brush in here. Blades of grass. If it's not here, oh, I've got. I'm pretty sure that these tree brushes that I have, I might have added them myself. I even have another one I wasn't really using. There's like a bunch of tree brushes. If you don't have the tree brushes, all you gotta do is find a picture of a tree. PNG is good. If you get a PNG, that's great, because then you don't have to cut it out. But say I grab this one. Actually, that one's cut off a little bit. Ah, what happened to tree? Maybe this one. Okay, so this one, I'll copy that picture of the tree. File new, edit, paste, and then you just need to clear everything but the tree. So you could use the quick select maybe. Try to select just the tree. And then you can create a layer mask while it's selected. This will show you what's cut out and what's not. You can see I got some of the sky here that I don't want, so go back and remove those by holding the Alt button to deselect those areas. This might be easier. Hold on, let me see if I could use the object selection tool on this. Let me with the object selection tool, you just have to drag a box around the object you want to select, and it's going to try to detect the edges. Yeah, that worked pretty decent actually. Maybe it selected a little bit too much, like here, I don't need that. I don't need this little bit. I don't need some of these areas. I want to have like a little bit of holes in the tree to make it a bit nice of a texture. Okay, so say I'm satisfied with that. I'll just say, well, let's remove the background first. And then we just have to select that layer and say, edit, define brush preset. When you say that, you can see the little preview of what that brush is going to look like. Call this a tree. I don't know what tree I'm at. I'll just say tree 4 or something. Okay. And now hide that. Let's just paint on the background. You can see I just created a tree brush out of that picture. It's pretty easy. And I could come here and use that new tree. You change the color, it'll change the color of the tree. I, but if I'm going to do that, I gotta make sure all 3 of them look the same again. So copy paste this over here. Oops. Um, anyways, before I did that, I was gonna put some grass here. So um, the same method that I used for creating the tree, you could do the same to grab some grass. A good picture of grass might be something like this. Well, no, that one's hard to grab. You might have to use the selection tool and just grab like the foreground grass, like the blurry ones in the back, hide those. Or maybe you could use something like this to create the brush where it's white in the background. Or this one. Just select those trees, create a brush out of that, and then you'll end up with something like, let me see if I have it. I should have it. I saw it earlier. I think these, yeah. Like here's my grass brush. Okay, so I'll take that grass brush, make it smaller, of course. Make it. You could also play with the brush here, and I've already increased the spacing a little bit, but we can also do shape dynamics, so the size of the brush is not always the same. Increase the size jitter with that. We can scatter it a tiny bit, so I don't know if, in this case, I don't know if scattering is a good idea, but I'll scatter it a little bit. We can do color dynamics, so the color is not always exactly the same. So when I do that, you can see like it's all like different colors. Um, but let me go back to that brush setting. I don't want to do hue jitter too much. When you change the hue, the hue is like going from, across the colors of the rainbow. The higher that hue jitter is, the more different colors you're gonna have. I don't want to jitter the hue too much, but I do want to maybe jitter the saturation and the purity. I don't know if that's gonna help. And the hue, I do want to jitter it a little bit, so let it go from like green to red to yellow, those areas. So if I pick green, or yeah, green here, I have like different shades of green. And I'll just put some grass down here. And just like the trees, um, make another layer in the back. So I want to have some trees in the back of those. I mean, some grass in the back of those trees as well. Maybe I should. No, that's fine. We'll leave it like that. And then here, so I'll delete these again. Now that I have this, I'm gonna copy that and actually delete whatever's outside of there. We don't need that grass. So just take these. I'll do copy merged, edit copy merged, because I want to grab both layers. And then I'll say edit paste. Bring that there, copy it there, and close that. Yes. What's this? Oh. Um. Oh. I might have to extend the grass a little. Since I moved that layer up, you can see the bottom of the grass. So I'll just bring it down a little bit. It solves that. Bring it down on the beginning and the end. Okay, so you guys get the point, right? It's pretty obvious what I'm doing. Anyways, it's past 8, so let's take a break. Okay, I'm back. Getting cold, had to put a sweater on. Oh, Deanna, I didn't see you hop on. Let me make sure I mark you present. And does anyone want me to repeat any of this or so basically you want to divide your images if you're going to have like an infinite looping background, you want to divide it and have those same images repeating constantly. And you just have to begin and end not on exactly the same frame, but slightly off a little bit. So like for example, this one, it starts here and ends here. So a little bit offset. Like I just measure like from one frame to another how much like this point, let's say, moves. And basically move it that same amount but in the opposite direction. So if it moved about that much, I'll move it about that much on the last frame. I don't know if I did that correctly here. So yeah, on the last frame, that means this should be like here. Oh, I guess that wasn't the last frame. Wait, is it the last frame? I can't tell. Let me zoom out. That's the last frame. And I think I had it right the first time. So from here to here, then that tree, that tall tree at the end should be, yeah, like where it is here. I guess a little bit more back. And then you get a nice infinite loop with no jitter or nothing. Even if I slowed it down, it would be hard to tell that it's looping. Right now it's going so fast you can't really tell anyway. And put it all together, you get a nice little animation going. You could use that, I don't know, it could just be a GIF that you use, or if this was part of a full-on animation, you could just make this like one like quick scene of something happening. Like this is the scene where something is flying, showing that, and jump to a different scene. Or it could be a part of a video game. You could create textures like these and export them to use as background images in a video game. Um, we could we could also save. I could export this as a GIF, and if I was going to use it in a website, export it as a GIF and place it in there. Or I could even like I could create the same animation in HTML and CSS instead of using the Photoshop keyframes. I could pretty much create keyframes in CSS with the add keyframes animation. Kind of like the same thing, except you gotta do it through HTML and CSS. So I would have to like export all of the images that I have. I'd have to take this whole image actually and save it as a texture, and then put it inside a div, um, and then put overflow hide or hidden, and just move that using left or right or transforms. And um, I should probably show you. So it's probably best to create it in Photoshop first before you do in HTML, CSS, unless it's really simple. But since I have this created here, I could try to use this somehow. So we'll do a little bit of review with some HTML and CSS. Hopefully every time I repeat this, you guys, it kind of gets more solidified in your head how to use HTML and CSS. I'm gonna create a new folder, call this CSS loop animation. And let's open up VS Code in this folder. So Visual Studio Code. So here I've got VS Code open. I'm going to say File, Open, Desktop, and open that CSS loop animation folder. And we've got nothing so far. So let's go up here and create a new file, index.html, exclamation tab. And we've got to start placing our images in here somewhere. So let's think about it for a second. Gotta count all the layers I've got. We can't take the curves adjustment with us. I don't think, yeah, we're not gonna be able to use curves adjustment. So let me delete that layer. So any like blending you might be doing here, you can't really do that in CSS. Actually, you can. CSS does have like blend filters, but I don't know how widely supported they are. But anyway, so one of these is the background. And I don't have to use this one, although it's a simple one. Um, maybe I'll improve this a little bit by making the sky a little bit nicer. Let's make it a gradient before I do this. Go from maybe a reddish orange color, yellow color, I mean, like that. From that to let's go to a blue color. There we go, something like that. That looks better. We could also make the grass a gradient as well. I don't know, and in real life, what happens to grass when you look at it further away? Does it look any different? Maybe brighter if the sun is in the distance or something. Let's just go brighter. So I'll pick a green color for the foreground, and let's take that same green color for the background color. Just make it brighter. And then make that gradient here. You see what that looks like. Yeah, that's fine. We'll keep it like that. Okay, so we have our background layer. Now the background layer is the easiest because it's not moving. So all I have to do is just save this. Let's do file, export, save for web. You don't have to do save for web, but I'm just gonna do save for web. Make it a JPEG. Yeah, that's fine. Save it. Save it inside our CSS loop animation folder. Make a new folder in here called images. And then inside the images folder, let's create another one called loop. And inside there, I'll call this one BG and save it there. So here we have images BG, which we can place somewhere on our page. So this isn't like a SVG or anything, so it will eventually look pixelated if we try to make it bigger than it's supposed to be. So we'll have to like create a fixed size location for this animation. So maybe it'll be a div. Let's give it a class equals let's call it animation. So animation is gonna have a div with the, actually we don't really need to create an extra div for the background. We'll just make it the background of this whole animation div here. And we'll throw the trees and stuff on inside of it, and this will still be the background for everything. So just gonna make a div with a class animation, and I'm gonna create remember CSS. We should probably put it in a CSS folder, or make sure that's not in the images folder. Make sure I'm in the home folder where the index file is. There I'll create styles, Inside styles, I'll create styles.css. Okay. Here we'll say let's do our CSS reset first. Well, let's do the animation first so we can see what the reset does. We'll do animation, background image, URL, and we want to go to images or / images loop bg. So we're going out of the styles folder, we're going into the images folder, grabbing that image right there. We're putting it as the background for this animation div. We're not going to see anything just yet because I didn't give it a width or a height. So yeah, it's just still blank over here. But let's give it a width and a height. And while we're at it, everyone's comfortable with me using SCSS instead of regular CSS because I prefer using SCSS. That way I could keep this more organized by nesting things. So I'm gonna have to click watch Sass since I'm using Sass, and there it created my CSS file for me. So now we'll add some updates to this. We'll say background image is going to have a height of what was it, 540 pixels? Let's make it the same width and height as the actual image here. Image size. If we look at it in image canvas size, it's 960 by 640. So 640 and width 960. Oh, and we need to link to this, of course. So it's another reason why we're not seeing any difference. I never linked my style sheet. Link type equals text/CSS. Relationship equals style sheet. href equals styles/styles.css. There we go. All right, so we got our background in place. Oh, okay. So it looks like it's it looks like it's really long, but it's because I have background repeat turned on. If we turn off background repeat, background repeat, no repeat. Yeah, you can see this is the actual size of the picture. It's just it was repeating the background, so it looked like it was really long. But that's the size. All right, so so we have our basic HTML, and in the head we just added our link to the style sheet. And in the body, I just have a single div here that has a class of animation. So in my styles.css, I gave that div with the class of animation, background image, made it background repeat no repeat so it doesn't repeat the background. I gave it a fixed width and a height. I want to keep it at that. And currently it looks like top left corner here. If you want to center it, just add margin auto on the div. It'll come to the middle. If you want to center it vertically though, you're gonna have to make the body display flex and then use justify content center and align item center to center it that way. But if you're not worried about vertically centering it, just put margin auto. Margin auto. And it didn't center. Why is that? Oh, probably because the HTML body itself doesn't have a width on it. Let's just make sure that has a width on it. Body width 100%. Nope, it's still not. Why isn't it centering? We have our, oh, because I put 960. I did not put 960 pixels. So we don't really need that. Oh, no, we need the margin auto. We just don't need the body width, I'm guessing. There we go. Okay, I just forgot to put pixels. Alright, so that's where we'll see our animation. That's where it's gonna play. Our setting is there. We have our background. So next we need to throw in the images inside the rest of the images. So one of the images we need is this foreground, although why is it so transparent? I'm gonna bring up that opacity. So that's 61%. Make that 100. Okay. All right. So this layer, now, do I need? I don't know if I need the longer version or if I just need one of these. If I just take this, I could just turn on background repeat. No, that's not gonna work. If I use it as a background, it's gonna be harder to move it around and stuff. So I have to actually bring it in as an image and move that entire image left and right. And if I do that and I just take this entire thing and move it to the left, it's gonna be empty here. So I need to double click on this and actually get this longer version of it and save this as an image. So I'm gonna say File, Export, Save for Web. And in this one, we're not gonna do JPEG because if I do JPEG, it's gonna have a white background. I'll need to do a PNG for this. PNG 8 has fewer colors. It only has 256 colors. PNG 24 doesn't look much different. Also, I'm noticing, let me clear my guides, view, clear guides. It looks like I left a little gap here in the middle. I should close that gap. Let me start by merging all of this together. And let's just grab some grass, or let's use the clone stamp. How about that? We'll grab some of this, just bring it over here. Just close that little gap. This one too. And all the way here. Just make sure the edge is all the way filled up. Try to use the softer brush because I kind of see the edges of this brush here. But it's fine. It's gonna be moving so fast. You're not gonna notice that little thing anyway. All right. This tree kind of looks like it's floating, but whatever. Let's just ignore that. I'm gonna take this image, export, save for web. Again, make sure it's a PNG. PNG 8 is fine. We don't have too many colors. It's just green and brown, and 256 seems enough. At this size, it's 239 kilobytes. If I change it to PNG 24, that jumps up to 567, and it doesn't look much different, so it's not worth it. We'll keep it at PNG 8. Just keep the size a little bit lower, and then save that. Although I'm trying to think, would we be able to do this more efficiently if we just used one image and used that same image 3 times and stuck them together? That might be a better option actually. But I'll keep it simple. That's gonna complicate things. I'm just gonna save it as one long image, and we'll call this foreground trees, FG for foreground trees. Save that. So was that the foreground or oh sorry, that was the background, not the foreground. So let me just rename that. It's actually BG trees. Okay, that's gonna be the background trees. Let's do the same with the foreground then. So I'm gonna double click this to see the whole picture here. Let's say file, export, save for web. Again, PNG 8 should be fine. Well, it might not be fine. Maybe these these white areas here might be a problem. Let me see if it improves. Yeah, if we make it PNG 24, you can see that looks a lot better. So for this one, maybe the other one too, I wasn't paying attention to this area, but it might be a problem if it's PNG 8. Let me also, if we keep it PNG 8, I wonder if dither makes a difference. Not really. Interlaced, no. Diffusion, transparency, oh, this might help. Diffusion, transparency, dither. Oh no, then that looks weird. Definitely don't do that. Let's keep it at PNG 24. Let's save it. Call this one FG trees. Okay, so we got the foreground trees and the background trees. What's left? What's left is the bird. The bird is all that's left. Now for the bird's gonna be a little bit tougher because I mean I could just bring the bird as a looping GIF maybe. That was probably the easiest way to bring the bird in. Just have a looping GIF. Yeah, we'll go with that. Otherwise I'm gonna have to like animate showing each frame of the bird using a different background image. That's gonna be really tedious and annoying. So instead of doing all that, we'll just save this GIF of the bird flapping its wings. So file, export, save for web. We're going to choose GIF 128 dither should be fine. Yeah, that's okay. And let's see, what do the, yeah, it looks fine. We'll just use this. Save that. Call this bird dot, or just bird. It should save it as a GIF. Let me make sure that bird GIF is actually playing. If I look at it here, yep, there it is. If we preview it in VS Code, it's already playing, so that's good. So we have all the ingredients for our animation. And we need to put them inside this div now. So when you add stuff in HTML, it reads from the top down. So the last thing that it sees is going to be on top of the others. Because it's like every time it sees something, it draws it, sees something else, then it draws that. So whatever new thing it draws on top of the previous thing. So meaning we want to put the background stuff first. So we already put the background on this animation. Next, we need the background trees. So we'll create a div, or maybe not a div, just an image. Say image source equals, and we'll put images slash loop slash. So again, I said the newer stuff is going to be on top of this, so this is going to be the background. So background trees. There it is. I'm not seeing the background that I originally had. Meaning this is not a GIF, or it doesn't have a transparent background. I might have to resave. Let me double check here. So we're looking at desktop, CSS loop animation, images, loop, just background trees. Oh yeah, when I saved it, I might have forgot to delete the white background first, or I might have disabled transparent background. So I gotta save that again. So layer 1 background, double click on that. File, export, save for web. Yeah, we're gonna want to save that as a PNG 24. So that looks better. Make sure transparency is turned on. Save it, and this is gonna be background trees. Replace. Let's see if it updated here. Yep, okay, there we go. So now we could see it doesn't have the white background. So there's the background, and this is our first image. You can see it's just placed over here. So we just have to animate this from left to right. Or sorry, the other way. We need to bring it this way and then bring it the other way. Okay, and I think we could use percentages for this to make things easier. Or no, we could just use pixels, since we already know it's 960 pixels wide. We're gonna have to move it 960 pixels at a time. Okay, so there's the image. You see that it's lined up like this, but in here we know that it starts on the right side of the image, and then it moves to the other side. So we're basically pulling it this way. So same with this, we gotta pull it the other way. So that means I gotta bring this edge over here, and then we're gonna move it to this side at the end of the animation. That means we're gonna have to use position absolute because position absolute lets you position something like this image relative to its parent, as long as the parent has position something other than the default, which is static. So relative is the safest, because if we just put relative and we don't use top left, bottom left, or right, it's not going to go anywhere. It's going to stay where it's supposed to. But now that we put position relative on the parent div, which is the animation div, we can position this image inside of it. So we say image, and I guess it's going to matter which image, because this is just the first image we're throwing in here. Let's give this a class equals FG trees, foreground trees. So we're going to say image with the class of FG trees, or we could just put FG trees. We want these to be position absolute and left 0, or maybe right 0. I don't know. Let me check. Left 0. We want it doing the other way, so right 0. There we go. So now it's starting on this side, and we're going to be pushing it the other way. Yeah. Okay. So it's going to be right 0. It's going to start off like that. Now for the animation. Add keyframes. Let's call it my animation. Add keyframes, my animation. I'm gonna say, or sorry, no, that's not what we want to call it. Let's call this the foreground trees, FG trees. We're gonna have a different animation for each of the different images that I throw in there. So the foreground trees, it's just for this image right here. I'm creating an animation just for this one to move it from the right edge, bring it all the way to this way. So yeah, so for that part, this is the background one, so it's the one that moves slower. That means we don't want it to go all the way. We're not gonna move this one all the way from, it's not gonna move like, so right now we're seeing it here, right? The one in the foreground is gonna go from here all the way to here. It's gonna move fast. But this one, we just want it to move like halfway, like to here. So we have to say, right now it's at right 0. So if it's at right 0, that means the image is going to be stuck 0 pixels away from the right edge of its parent, which is the animation div that we put it inside. So this is stuck 0 pixels to the right of this animation div. So we need to move it 960 pixels. um, 960 pixels more to the right. That means we need to put a negative number for the right value. So right 0 means 0 pixels from the right. And we're going to say from right 0 to right. Now, if I say 960 pixels, it's going to move left. It's going to go the other way. It's going to move 960 pixels away from the right side, like pushed to the left. But if I say negative, then it's going to move it the other way. Oh, and we need to assign. Once I assign this animation, you'll see it'll start looping right away. So FG trees, if I say animation, I called it FG trees. So animation FG trees. We want it to take, let's say, 3 seconds. We want it to be infinite. Um, let's play it and see what happens. Yep, so you can see it's moving from the right edge to the left edge. We're not all the way to we're not going all the way to the first image because then it'll move too fast. Also, notice how it slows down. It starts off fast and then slows down, or it has easing. It starts off slow, gets faster, and then slows down. If you don't want that to happen, you just want like a steady linear animation, then you just have to say 4G FG trees 3 seconds. I think we put it here, linear. Now it's more steady. There's no easing, no slowing down and starting over. So that way you can't really, if you were just looking at this, you didn't see the outside, it would look like a nice repeating loop. Cool. And you can't, there's no pause button on this, it's CSS. Unless you add a pause button with some JavaScript or something. But we got the foreground going nicely. So next we need to do, let's just throw in the bird already. The bird is easy because it's not going to be moving. It's just a GIF. Let's say image source equals images slash loop slash bird.gif. Just throw that in there already. There's the bird. Now, it kind of looks bad with that because I made it a GIF with 256 colors. It's kind of you could see that like white edges of the GIF. I don't know if I could improve that with anything. But let's just add the third image, which is going to be the foreground. So let's look at the order here. First is going to be the BG trees. We want the bird to actually come after that. So it's on top of, it's going to be on top of the background trees. And then we want another image source equals, we'll call this one or sorry, I got that backwards. This is the foreground trees, so this should be first or last. It's the last thing that gets created, so it's going to be on top of everything. And then the bird. So the first thing, meaning the one that's going to be in the background, should be the BG trees. Okay. Oh, and we also have to make sure this one also. Let's give it a class. Class equals BG trees. Make sure that one is also copy paste everything we have for foreground trees. Paste it here. This one's also going to start on the right 0. It's also going to be position absolute. The difference is it's going to have another animation called BG trees 3-second linear infinite. We could copy this at keyframes as well and just call it BG trees. And it's going to go from right 0 to right, not negative 960, but negative double that. So negative, what was it, 1920. Something's not right. Oh, it's probably the bird. The bird. I didn't put any CSS for this, but because it's I didn't make it position absolute yet, so it's pushing the other images around. So everything inside the animation has to be position absolute. So it basically gets lifted from normal document flow and it doesn't push other things around. So make sure we add the bird in here as well. Dot bird. Make sure this has that dot bird class. So class equals bird. So bird is going to be position absolute. And it's not going to move anywhere. So top 0, left 0. It's not going anywhere. So probably don't even need to add that, but I'm just going to add it just to make sure it sticks to the background where it's supposed to be. What else? Something else is not right because this is still getting pushed down. We got FG trees. Oh, one of these should be BG trees. There we go. There we go. Alright, so now we got it going, and last thing to do is for the animation, just put overflow, so anything that doesn't fit inside the 640 by 960 box that I put it in, we won't see it. Overflow hidden. There we go. So now we're doing the same thing, but I'm using CSS to animate it. And if we want to improve that bird, I might try exporting it a little bit differently. Oops. Where's the bird? There it is. So let's try file, export, save for web. And in order to clean up the edges so it doesn't look so weird, you could kind of tell here that it's going to have that weird white. I don't know why it does. I guess it's because it doesn't have enough colors to do like a transparent white where it needs it. Or I don't think it can even do transparencies. It's either completely solid or completely filled. So it's not like a PNG where you could have like opacity at like 50%. I think with GIFs it's either 0 or 100%. That's why it looks like this. That's why there's like, for transparency, they have the option for dithering, which is, I guess, I don't know, putting little dots to try to help. And I guess in this case that helps a lot. There's two different versions. Noise is it's fine, but I think what about pattern? Pattern, no. Diffusion. I don't know. They're all pretty similar. I'll just leave it on diffusion transparency and save it. Save it over the bird. And yes, replace. Let's see if that improves. I can't tell. It's a little bit better. Just a little bit. It's not as obvious now. Cool, so there's our animation. We did it with CSS. Any questions? No questions. Um, Now we're not gonna have lab day tomorrow because it's a holiday. I was kind of thinking of making the second half of this class just lab, but obviously I didn't. We have like half an hour left in class right now, so or like 35 minutes. What do you guys think? Should we just take the rest of the class as lab time and you guys can mess around and try these things? Or I was kind of done with Blender. I'm not planning on showing you Blender anymore, but if anyone would like, I could continue messing with Blender, see what we could create. Let's take a vote. Um, so lab or Blender lecture. Of course, lab. Well, of course, I don't mind. That means I don't have to talk. Um, but honestly, if you guys want me to show you more Blender stuff, like I don't, there's so much to do with that program. It's pretty cool. I wish we had a class just for Blender, and I'll definitely go back and try to refresh my memory on it. Anyway, so that's it. No one wants me to do Blender. If not, then we could take the rest of the class just as lab time, and maybe some questions could come up. And let me know if you have questions. We're only here for like 35 minutes, so uh, let me know if you need help with anything or if you have any questions. Okay, so I'll pause the recording at this point.